There was a time when the Russian Ukraine war was everywhere. Every headline, every news alert, every conversation, it feels like the world had stopped to watch it unfold. And then slowly it disappeared. Not because the war ended, not because peace was achieved, but because the world moved on. Today the war is still ongoing. Soldiers are still fighting, cities are still under threat, missiles still fall, but the attention, the urgency, the global spotlight, that's gone. So what happened there? How did one of the biggest wars in recent history become background noise? The answer is not simple, but it's real. The world did not stop caring. It got distracted. New conflicts started emerging. Tensions in the Middle East escalated. Economic crises, elections, and inter-political battles began dominating headlines, and in a media system driven by attention, the newest crisis always wins because attention has a limit and geopolitics is a competition for it. At the same time, the nature of the war itself changed. In the beginning, everything was fast, shocking, and unpredictable, rapid advance, dramatic footage, constant updates. It was a story that evolved every single day, but now it's slower, more statistic, a grinding war of attrition. Front lines barely move. Progress is measured in meters, not miles. And that kind of war does not capture attention the same way. It becomes repetitive, and repetition does not trend. There's also a harder truth. For many countries, especially outside Europe, this war was never the center of their reality. Over time, domestic issues, job, inflation, energy prices took priority. Government adjusted their focus accordingly. Support did not vanish, but urgency faded. And then there's fatigue. War fatigue is real. People can stay emotionally invested in a conflict forever, especially one with no clear end. At the same point, constant exposure turns into quiet avoidance, not because people do not care, but because they cannot keep caring at the same intensity. And while public attention fades, the war becomes something else entirely, a long term strategic game, less about headlines, more about endurance, less about movements, more about momentum. Beyond the scene, it still shapes global alliances, military strategies, and economic decisions. Weapons are still being sent, sanctions still matter, political calculations are still being made, but it happens quietly now, without the same spotlight, and that might be the most dangerous part. Because when a war disappears from attention, it does not disappear in reality. It just becomes easier to ignore, easier to prolong, easier to normalize. The Russian Ukraine war did not end, it adapted. So did the world. The cameras moved on. The headlines changed, but the conflict is still there. It's still shaping the future, whether we are watching or not. Thank you.